Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon and welcome to the Water and Sewer Commission meeting of Monday, February 7th, 2022. We will open the meeting up for public comment. If anyone would like to comment from the public. Anybody online, Peter? And if so, how about that? You let me know, we'll move on. Pete? No comment on public? Great. Okay. So, let's see, we have in your packet, you had stormwater moment about lawn clippings. Bill?
Yeah, just trying to keep your catch basins clear and not putting grass clippings or running any organic materials down to the catch basins, because basically they get into our waterways, create algae blooms and things of that nature, hypoxic conditions within the water column, which is, consuming the oxygen within the water, creating fish kills and aquatic life kills and things like that, and robbing the water of its oxygen. So that's basically the
Gist of that?
gist of this, and only rain down the drain.
Whatever happened to the people that are gonna paint the drains and stuff?
I don't know, I saw it on the utility boxes.
So
I don't know about the drain thing. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
We're working with the group of the arts group, and that was one of the suggestions. I think they ended up going with the utility boxes to start.
They did a nice job on it, too.
They did, didn't they?
Yeah.
They look great.
This would just tie in with it.
Yep.
And we have little medallions
Yeah,
that go on.
Tommy's group puts them out.
Yeah.
I've seen them,
Try to put
there's
them out.
several on Glen Street.
Yeah.
But they were gonna paint like fish on the street, point towards the drain and stuff, so people with more awareness of what was going down the drains, and
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
And we have the sidewalk, what do you call it, like an outline for the arts project itself, and they want to work on that, so
So it's
that is
still-
all in the arts project, group that is meeting, and, we're working with them to get it accomplished. Anything further about, it's funny, Bill, I was gonna say, I don't think we've had a grass clipping problem right now this time of year. That's great. Let's go.
It's also part of our MS4 permitting outreach and public notification and education.
Thank you. So, in number 3 is billing issues. I don't see anyone from the public who has a billing issue they'd like to bring up, so we'll keep moving along. Number 4 is our resolutions. So, like a motion to approve the last meeting minutes of January 3rd, 2022.
I'll make a motion.
Second, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. And motion moves. Another resolution to approve the warrant.
I said, just a couple of,
Yeah.
we bought a couple of trucks.
Mm-hmm.
One's a 21 and one's a 22. Were we just waiting for was that a surplus we grabbed, or was it a leftover, or was something that we've had and we just haven't paid for yet?
No, we have the 2 trucks.
Okay.
Yeah, there's actually 3 that we purchased.
Maybe it was 3, but there was
Yeah,
one that was
there's 3 of them.
a
There's
different date.
One for here, one for the water treatment plant, and
Good.
then there's a truck for Tommy's crew that was split between the water and sewer.
I believe the one, Woody, you're talking about is the one for the water,
There's one Davy drives?
yeah, the big white,
Yeah.
550.
Yeah.
We,
Oh, okay.
yeah, we got word that this was leftover, and we could give them a letter of commitment for it last October. They had hold on to it until January. It was an $80,000 truck, we got it for $60,000.
Nice.
So that's why it's a 21. But it's
Okay.
in this year's budget.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the warrant? Do we have a motion to accept the warrant?
So moved.
Second?
Second. All in favor?
Yes.
Great. In your package, you've got the plant capacity evaluation and cost analysis study. Open it up for questions. Having none, could we have a motion to approve the evaluation?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Yes.
Yep.
Third in your packet, or additional in your packet, approval of the award of the bid, CGF 220-01, the gravity belt thickener equipment and installation services. Anybody have any questions about it?
Bill, was that within our budgeted,
Yeah, the budget was 500,000, it came in at
Great.
439.5.
so with even with overruns, it should be,
Yeah, we should be have a little contingency
Good.
there to go ahead and replace, that's to replace the DAF unit for thickening of, waste activated sludge.
super, thank you. Motion to move the warrant?
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
And then 5 is, discussions, regarding on, let's try the progress on the plant capacity and evaluation. Bill?
Yeah, that's the Reptilis report that we just approved above. We've met, several times, but, we gave them plenty of information, and we met last Tuesday, Chris?
Yeah.
And, we met with everybody, and, they thanked us for getting the information so quickly. We also they asked for a couple other things and a couple other financial reports that Mike was working on, and also we gave them a tour of the treatment plant. They're pretty confident they have just about everything they need. They're working pretty well on the report. They understand it fully. They're hoping to have at least a rough draft to us by the end of this month, and hopefully a final report maybe by the end or the beginning of March, the end of this month, beginning of March.
We can, that evaluation is gonna become really important, and we'll, talk more about our Moreau issue, under, executive session. But, that is great that it's making such good progress and that we got them the information. Thank you to yourself and your staff. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's, gonna be very important for us, all 3 phases, to help us to understand the value of this plant and the products that we're producing, services we're providing. Sorry. I don't know what products we're, I don't know. I gotta be careful with my choice of words there. Okay. Let's see. How about the duals and project?
The dual sand project is
Dual
going
sand
well.
project.
It's the water treatment facilities filters, and as with anything, I can sit here and tell you everything you want to know, but I've got some pictures that I figured would be
good.
easier to probably show you. This is the internals of one of the filters, the air lifts, and the front goes, and you'll see in later pictures how those are replaced. You can see all the sand. It's basically what we have removed to redo everything. Another picture of the sand in the walls. This is one of the domes down on the bottom underneath the sand. You can see some of the sand in some of the walls. This is the stuff that was coming off the wall. You can see it here. You can see this is the old paint above the water line. This is what was inside the sand filter. Again, you can see how it's just peeling off. How they had to scrape it off with some tools. This is the radial arms where the water comes down through and then up through the sand. Again, another one of the domes. You can see the picture of the dome here with the radial arms, and this is all filled with sand. This is one of those dividers that we were talking about that Roselle had to complete. The fiberglass was broken, and they had to come in. They put a stainless steel cap on that. Obviously, we couldn't take all that fiberglass out and repair it, so we replaced it, repaired it with some stainless steel. You can see how it's supposed to look here on these things, and how it's in there sucking the last bit of sand out of these. See how the walls are a little pitted? You can see how they're pitted. And here's that little bit more of that breakage of the subdivider. And they went in and skin coat. You see how the walls are nice and smooth now. So before they painted, they had to go in and smooth all that out. You can see how they covered the domes to make sure no paint was getting any on the critical parts. And it was almost like a tent city there with all the plastic they put to protect the other 3 filters that are in operation while they were doing this work. And now you can see the new blue paint. Here again, and then you see the new
Pointer, doesn't stay up with the technology, or it
here
doesn't
we
do
got,
well on the screen,
new,
does it?
new lift arm pieces and the new Fernicos. See the paint here, this is the water line, this is the new NF S61, and then they use 71 above because it's not in contact with the water. See, these were the heater, had to keep it nice and warm, we had outside heaters, it was left to 80, 85 degrees in there during some of the coldest weather we had, under that plastic. Then they had to paint the ceiling, looks like more like a jungle gym, but that's what they all crawled up on here through this stuff and got all this stuff scraped off, all the rust that was on here scraped off, primed, and then 2 coats of paint. And you can see that the top was recoated with the blue paint too, and that's above the water line. Another picture of that. Then they removed a lot of the plastic in between. And this is the sand. This is the sand that's come in that they're going to put in after the filters are complete. Right now, if you go up there, there's 172 of those sand bags. About 4,000 pounds each. And that's just for 2. And then we're going to do the next 3.
I thought that was buying ahead for all 5 of them.
No, that's just for 2.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thank you for the.
Yeah, I figured, I'm standing here, spitting out all this verbiage and nobody understands what I'm talking about. So that's where we stand on that project. So they should appear to be on timetable by the end of this month. These 2 filters, 4 and 5, should be online, up and testing to make sure that we can put them back online. And once they're online, we'll move over to 1, 2, and 3 and complete those. 1, 2, and 3 should take less time, obviously, because they realize what, this was all, it's all new to them now. Now they're just going to switch over to the other side, and they already know what they're facing.
When they're completed, Bill, what's the life expect to see before we have to go into another project?
Well, hopefully this is a little better technology, a little better paint, so this was 30 years, so hopefully at least that, if not more.
Not we're gonna have to worry about it then.
No, I got a question. I'm gonna take a ride up there and look at it. I haven't been up there in a while. Is this gonna reduce the reject that we see coming down to the Webster Street pump station?
It
I don't
may.
mean to put you on the spot.
No, it may, just because of new airlifts, we won't get as much breakthrough and stuff like that, and obviously, you saw how that got broken up was because they were lancing, and they thought that they were raking up big chunks of sand, and actually they were breaking up the divider, because when we took all the sand out, nothing was clumped together. There weren't any big sand. The sand came out great. So, hopefully we're gonna check that, and we're looking at different things, and the manufacturer came in and showed us different things to do with the reject, and how to keep the baffles higher maybe. And he also changed some air settings, so hopefully we won't be losing as much sand. So if that's the case, it won't be going down to you guys in Webster Avenue and stuff like that.
So, would you do me a favor and later this week, notify or reach out to Larry Dudley in communications so that I'd love him to help you do a series of stories. This is great use of ARPA money that City of Glens Falls had not had planned. We knew it was coming, but that kind of money doesn't come around very often. It's a great use of COVID money to solve a 30-year problem and to help us in our future. So I want to make sure that we're giving, because if somebody reads about it or sees one of these meetings, they'll know a little bit. But other than that, they really won't know about all the great difference that the ARPA money has made. And it's a huge, huge deal for us. And Larry can help compile the story and then
Sure.
get it to the
Give 'em
people.
all the information.
Yeah. Awesome.
Any other questions on this?
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve's National Grid request for an easement on Potter Road. They're looking at putting in 6 poles, an easement along Potter Road. And I'm going to let Jeremy talk about it a little because he has a better history on this.
Yeah, so, the city received this request, I think it was just last week, as Bill said, for roughly 5 to 6 poles, it's basically right at the trailhead of the Halfway Brook Trail. I think I would suggest the city, obviously consult, our attorney, and then, get a little more information from National Grid on this. just, you know, that timber plot there, making sure, cause with overhead wires, we know there's maintenance of, and keeping things cleared above the wires, so just wanna make sure they're not too far into the timber, or, so, we'll get in touch with them, work with, Mr. Klingbeil, and,
Are these additional poles or are they replacing poles?
yeah, they're making a connection between some dead ends, two dead end, wires. So this will just make the connection, make for a little more reliable network.
Has there been any feedback from the pushback from the property owners on the perimeter of the easement? Or are they even aware of it?
Well, the only property owner it affects is the city.
But doesn't, it has nothing to do with us, so when it heads through the subdivision toward Aviation Road. Does it go that
I'm
way?
not sure I follow here, no.
Basically, the poles are gonna be on the watershed property.
Okay.
Yeah, and then across the street though is town of Queensbury
Yeah,
property,
yeah,
and that's
exactly.
what I think what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That has nothing to do with us, that's that.
It's pretty clear there anyway on the
Yeah.
side.
I
right?
think it is pretty wide, but I just wanna make
Okay.
sure before we
So
take any
on,
action.
Veterans Road, the, town had reached out to the city about lights, on, some of the things, cause the poles are all on the city property on Veterans Road, and that across the street is town property, which is kinda confusing because,
Yeah.
but it's because of the annexation there, so I wonder if, National Grid is, or the town is talking to National Grid about putting lights in there too, cause they were talking about it for Veterans Road, so we might wanna know that, if that's the case too.
Yeah, and there's a few other, negotiations that are ongoing with some other projects around the city, and some of them have been not moving all that quickly, so I think before we move on this, maybe we can,
Look at them all.
make a package deal on
Little
some of
quid
these
pro
others.
quo.
That's great.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah,
Yep.
we get a little leverage.
When you and Bill and I meet again, will you make sure that's on our agenda to follow up? And
Sure.
we definitely do wanna at least, know more. I know that, Jeff Flagg was talking about the Veterans Road and what we may or may not be able to do, and if it was part of anything else, so that would be let's make sure we pull him into that conversation.
Yeah, 'cause that's interesting, 'cause that is a Queensbury maintained road.
Yeah,
And the actual location of the poles, I don't know if they are on whose property they're on.
they're on the
right
Glens
way,
Falls
or
property, yeah.
They are, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
How wide is that easement? Did you-
This one that's being proposed is 20 feet. Interesting, it must be that the property owners on Cardinal Court said, no, don't put these poles on us.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was wondering, or
They must've.
they could take on one person by asking us rather than taking on many
Yep.
by going along the other side of the road. I wanted to say some things just to put questions out there, on record. Second paragraph of this introductory letter, please don't make any changes to the easement document or sketch and send back, or the sketch, send it back on the enclosed envelope. Basically, don't ask questions, it sounds like. And then on the grant of easement, section 1, part B, the clear it by physical, chemical, or other means. It's watershed,
Yep.
carte blanche, chemical, like, huge alarm bell to me. Section 5, and this is probably just me being ridiculous, but the grantor for itself, its heirs, legal representatives, successors, and assigns here, blah, 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 blah. It's just forever, no questions asked. You can't get out of this kind of a thing. By the end of that, grantor will forever warrant title to the grantor's land.
Forever
Like,
warrant is good
it just seems very much like, just need to do this is cool. Oh, just sign this and thanks a lot, and we've got right to this forever until we get sucked into the sun. And that, as a watershed property for an entire community, that seems very like, whoa, horsey. Hold on a second. To have that kind of carte blanche, even though it's on the edge, even though there's big parking area there anyway, but just, I don't know what's not that, which is where the, like, you know.
If it's just a blank document. that
This is where you
we're
own things
filling
for
in the
99
blanks.
years and reevaluate, or, you know, those kinds, I don't know what I'm talking about here in that respect,
Terms
but.
and conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've negotiated these before, there is usually some wiggle room, but, you know, I think making a list of it, those are good points, Chris, you go through it with them.
And to the fact that this just doesn't serve
Doesn't serve the city of
Glens
Glens
Falls
Falls at all.
residents at all. It kind of serves the people that are living right there. So if they've already been approached and refused it, but they get the benefit of it and it's on, and I don't mean to be selfish, I don't want to be a bad neighbor, but it's, you know, giving away rights to something for my great grandkids, like, that just sticks in my head real funny. So I just wanted to have said that out loud
Sure.
and what appeared to me as I was reading through it.
So Jeremy, would you then, when we meet, is something that that list that Chris just mentioned is something we'd consider, and then we'd give it to David or would we go with David and come back to us? I'm asking about process in general. What have we done in the past,
Yeah, I
something
don't know,
like
what do
this?
you think, that, a comment letter or a response letter, would that?
Well, I mean, I think, step one is, does the board, and it's gotta ultimately be approved by the common council because you're giving an easement. So does the board and the common council even wanna do this? If the answer is yes, then we have the conversation about the parameters. But, you know, to Chris's point, you know, when you're burdening in perpetuity city of Glens Falls land with no benefit at all to the city by placing, you know, 5 power poles that are serving a community located solely within Queensbury, and the watershed property is probably not going to be developed. So, you know, my feeling would be, step one would be, is this something that you want to entertain? If the answer to that is yes, then we negotiate the terms. But
Gotcha.
seems, you know,
There have been some plans for those pieces to have some, like, peripheral development on it though, haven't there?
What pieces?
Some of the watershed pieces.
Oh, yeah, we did look at that during some,
So
Previous
it
leaner
isn't
times.
necessarily something that
What I-
might, you know, it might not benefit us now, but it might benefit us down the road.
Having power there? Is that what you're saying,
Yeah.
Pat?
but
Yeah, I
there
think-
there'd be power across the street, but
Yeah.
I think that,
I don't know that this
agree
has
that
anything to do with that.
there was, I'm trying to remember, we marketed those properties
Right.
years ago, but we tried to market them to a developer with buffer easements and buffer zones to protect the watershed, and I don't believe we got any interest back, not for the price.
So when we bought the plug mill property and proceeded with that whole process, remember the plan, unit development, the plug?
Right.
That whole project?
Well, that would be if we wanted to annex, is that what you're talking about?
Right.
Right, we could link all those properties and annex, but under the agreement, we can't.
went through that, right?
Yeah, that annex period is, I'd have to double check and look and see when that expires. Because as part of that whole agreement, the city agreed not to annex any property.
Right.
Alright, I'll have to look that up.
Okay.
It was
So,
a while back. It was,
any
Yeah.
benefit, Jeremy, in general, even if we wanted to develop this land down, would this suggestion help us? Doesn't sound like it would, like,
no, because what's that gonna happen is you're gonna have these poles in the front of the property you're trying to develop. It's
yeah,
gonna
wouldn't help or.
definitely decrease the value
Oh,
of
I
it.
got you, decrease, yeah. So, why don't obviously, this is just a discussion, it's a good one, that we can get together and look at
Why don't we table the
different
whole
things,
thing
we'll
for now?
table the whole thing and then come back with some opinions that, you know, if we don't want it to, if the recommendation is we don't, then we don't, but even if we do, we probably wanna change some language on that.
As
Okay.
as a starting point, you want me to call Jim Rivers, the right-of-way agent, and just say, hey, by the way, why are you asking the city to do this and not
Yeah,
the Gannons and whoever else is located off of Cardinal Court?
That's gotta just be the lesser amount of questions, right? I would think.
well, you
have
don't
to
know
go to
until-
each
if
one of
you
them
don't
instead
ask.
of just one of us.
Yeah.
It's a decent assumption. It could easily have
I don't know if
gone
that's how
straight
that
across
works.
the parcel, straight across, cause they're only connecting those two lines.
Right.
So they could have gone straight down
Well,
the
yeah,
back of
obviously
those
there's-
parcels. But anyway, so, yeah, please,
Yeah, I'll
David, if
give
you
Jim
could make
Rivers a
that
call.
call, and then
Yep.
we're gonna gather together all the different
All right, and I'll
National Grid
report back.
things, and we can start looking at that. No hurry on this, right?
I mean, if
All
you
right.
go down, here's the existing line, why wouldn't they just run it straight like that?
Yeah.
I don't, that's,
Yeah.
Probably have less holes too.
Yep.
All right, so so we'll table that, and then electrical line switch value?
Yeah, the other day, we had a call from, same day, Tuesday, we got a call from National Grid that they were going, they wanted us to switch off the 3 line and go to the 8 line, at 1 o'clock. So we accommodated them, but when we tried to go from the 3 line to the 8 line, we got a switchgear failure. So we were without power and at the grid's mercy, but the grid didn't shut that 3 line off until 7 o'clock that night, and we went off at 1. So there was a 6-hour period there where we could still been on that with power. Now, we had a problem, so we were at their mercy until they brought the power back up, roughly at 3 AM. On the 3 line, that's, we went dark for about almost 14 hours, so. This has been an ongoing history with the switchgear here. The switchgear is original since '86.
Can I ask that, how old is it?
Yeah, since '86, so it's one of the things that we're really looking at some point, replacing all of the MCCs, all of the electrical switchgear out front.
Did we make a project out of that?
I think
I know we discussed it.
Talking about the
Yeah.
capital projects list?
I think we're waiting to do something in this budget year, I thought.
There was
but-
$120,000 in this budget for transformers, to replace some transformers.
Oh, it's just
But
that?
that's the only thing I saw.
Uh,
What I'm gonna do now is give it to Chris and let him, cause he has the history, like, such the same way Jeremy has at the,
I remember it,
Easement.
it was top of the list or near it.
and we have someone coming tomorrow morning to look at that switchgear and hopefully get it repaired, so that we're not put in this position again.
Yeah,
We're meeting with, we're also meeting with National Grid for the same reason.
Who are you getting to look for?
maybe we go after that.
Hmm?
It's a
Meeting.
company out of, just south of Albany. It's,
Gus
high
Smith?
voltage
Gus
electric.
Mittenberg is very good.
Yeah,
I used him a lot when,
okay, yeah, he seemed to,
he's excellent.
is it Lee? You know Lee?
Gus is his name.
Gus is the owner,
Right.
and then one of of his foremans or one of his bosses.
He's
is
got a
in-
couple of them, but
Yeah.
they're all very knowledgeable, they do
Yeah,
good work.
so this is.
I
this is-
highly recommend it.
We had another company do it, I guess, 2 or 3 times, and every time it's failed, so we're
Gus
doing it.
is, he can be repaired, he can do it.
Yes.
Those guys
Chris?
are great.
Will they do an evaluation of that, as whether it should be replaced at some point?
I think when they walk in there, they're gonna tell you that it needs to be replaced.
Maybe at some point we should look at making a project.
Well, we
Oh,
have
no,
a-
that's one of the next thing, and I think that was alluded to at some point with the ARPA money, that it was gonna be almost like a $2 or $3 million project, so.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't really, one of the priorities at that point, so hopefully now it can be.
You might wanna talk to him on the transformers too, I mean, he's very good with those, he's got outlets, he can transform, he did it for us. And he'll do transformer maintenance, test the oil and everything.
Yep.
And he's right in Gilderland, so
Okay.
he's up here all the time, grinds in all the mills, so.
Okay. I had the conversation, I was emailing Gus, but Lee was the one who called me, he lives about an hour, well, about 35 minutes just south of us.
No, he's fantastic.
Go ahead, Chris.
So in June of 2020, we had one of our insulators on the tower blew on the 8 line. We don't know if it was a lightning strike, age, we don't know what happened on that. So a couple weeks later, we shut that side down, replaced that insulator, and then we attempted to go to the 8 line at that time to test everything, and we blew the switch. The switch is just, we grab it, there's a bunch of little pieces that come together depending on where you turn it, it welded itself, closed, started smoking, we shut down immediately. In November of 2020, we replaced that relay, had to have one specially built because they don't make these parts anymore for anything in our MCCs. Everything has to be handmade, hand ordered, special. It's getting expensive with these MCCs, and we have no place to go with it. We turned it on, it blew again. And that's after we had looked at a bunch of stuff internally before we did it. So we went to, in March, we had to shut down for 10, 12 hours on the 3 line. We could not go to the 8 line because the hospital was replacing their switchgear. April 30th, 2021, we installed a new switchgear, or switch piece on the 8 line. We cleaned everything internally. We went through with a fine-tooth comb, replaced some extra parts. We engaged it, and then we brought the scissors down outside. Everything seemed to work. We disconnected it in May of 2021 because Grid called us and said, get off the 8 line, you're gonna single phase. This is why we don't run the 8 line a lot. We constantly get thrown off with hot spots, single phase problems. The 8 line is not a very reliable line for us. It seems to be more of a backup. So we got off that line. We stayed on the 3 line until February of this year. We went to engage it again, and it burned out again. So we've spent $24,000 replacing that switch piece alone, not counting the cleaning and everything like that we've done out there. And it still does not work. We're bringing somebody else in now. We can, Bob Johnson, electrician, and I sat down on Friday last week. We think we can take the 2 broken pieces and make a whole piece. It's not a real complicated device. It just has to be put together correctly. And we have the original piece that we can use as our model for doing that, which would save us some money. But at this time, we cannot switch there. Hopefully HVES finds something. We brought up last year about the ARPA money. Right now, we do not have the lights working on the back road because of blowing fuses. The solids building, we shut most of the DAF off because it's blowing the main fuse of the building, making that go dark. The prelim building, we don't have the lights on the outside of that because it's blowing fuses. A line going to the prelim building, we had to get off because that kept popping the GFI breaker. Something's going to happen, and it's going to cost us a lot of money if we don't start getting serious about our electrical system at this time. And we did get a quote for generator backup if we lost everything to hook into our 480 transformers. Like 45,000.
60
60,000
for
a
like
month.
24 days. It wasn't even a month. It was 500 hours, which equates to about 24
500
days.
hours.
I've done that in the past where you think you're renting a generator, renting it for a month, but you read it and it says so many hours, and the hours don't equate. The first one they sent us was for 40 hours, like it was going to be a regular week. You know, well, we don't shut the light
Yeah, we
switches off
shut
and
it off
leave
when
at 3 o'clock.
yeah.
I mean,
So-
the system we have is robust as in we have an A line and a B line that comes in here. So we kind of the national grid, we have the 8 line, the 3 line, they come in to our switchgear situation. We can take the 3, we can transfer part of the power over the A side, part of the power over the B side. We can do this in every building. So for us to go around and if we need to disconnect things, change out MCCs, we can do that. That is the great thing about this system. It is very robust that way. The hard part is when we lose one of these lines, we become very limited on what we can do now. Right now, we cannot get parts for any MCC here. We've been robbing stuff off the incinerator to make repairs. If we do have a power outage, I know one of the main things we have to do is instantly replace the fuse on a couple things because it blows fuses every time, which is telling me the contactor's going in that piece. I think we might be able to scrape one up someplace, but that's what we're doing is we're robbing Peter to pay Paul to keep the system going.
And the other thing that National Grid said was the wire on the 3 line was hanging by strands, right?
Yes, we were down to the last couple strands on the 3 line. That was causing a low minute low voltage situations, cause it's not just on us on the three, it's the hospital, it's Prime, a lot of people. The guys told me, they could hear the pitch changing in one of our transfer pumps. Now the pitch is gone. They just thought that's how the pump was running. Actually the pitch is gone now, and we've been blowing fuses in all our heating systems for the last 2 months. That may have contributed to it because we're losing voltage on one of our phases.
What's our incoming voltage, Chris?
We come in 15,
15 kV,
I think
13.2?
15 kV.
DC, it's 13.2 then.
and then we knock down to 4160. We run 4160 into our transformers, and we go to 480. One of the things Steve suggested was checking those lines to ensure their integrity coming underground, to make sure the underground system is valid.
Gus does all that. He has
Yes.
all the equipment to do that.
Yep, and then we, one of the things we're looking at, the only thing we run on 4160 is the number one, blower, the aeration. That motor, as far as we know, can be changed out to a 480, so we would eliminate anything 4160 after the substation. So we come in, all these buildings would then only have to worry about 480, which becomes a cheaper maintenance job for us.
At the same time, you look at this whole project, I know we put a generator in over to CR Bar, that's where I work. It's a 2.5 megawatt generator, and it ran about 1.2, 1.7 million, but that was with a new switchgear and everything. But that was a generator that would run the whole facility. You know, I mean, it might be something that
Yeah.
you wanna look at as a whole project.
Yeah, I just
And then
put
if the
one in
power
the
goes out,
Fairfield
the
too.
generator kicks on automatically, the plant's up and running, and you haven't gotta worry about, getting a rental generator or, some maintenance associated with them, but
Yeah, this is the first facility I've been at that
it
didn't
doesn't
have
have
a
one,
generator.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Fairfield had 3, and one was 1.3 meg.
Yeah.
That was just running one building, and we had one for the influent building. and
I don't know what the demand is here or
Yeah.
anything, but.
Well, the nice thing about here, compared to some other treatment plants, and I've been in other ones, is hydraulically, everything flows. You don't have to worry about pumping something up so it flows, So everything continues to flow. It's not like we're going to bypass somewhere out of a manhole or into someone's home or anything like that. The water still flows hydraulically, but it doesn't get treated the way it should be. Everything turns into big settling tanks.
So when we meet, Jeremy and Bill, when we meet, we're gonna look at the capital project list that was put together by Steve and, for, Chazen, or what's their name, LaBelle, right? And I just got an updated, version of that, so we can make sure this is on that list and then see what the priorities are.
That may be where you saw it. There is some electrical work built into that capital list. That's what you may have seen in
Yeah,
the
I know there was a lot of discussion about it a while back.
Well, if there was a lot of discussion, then it's probably because Mayor Hall was trying to help me coming in to have at least one list of all the needs he could think of. He didn't put things like park stuff on it. There's only
Yeah.
one park project in all of the 4 pages of capital projects, but, so I'm gonna guess that it's there. We can look and see if the estimates are all that, you're now talking about, inclusive, and what it's inclusive of and what it isn't. Yes?
Part of that transformer issue we brought up, was discussed, and with Steve, it was kinda recommended we don't do the transformers this year, because if we're gonna look at doing the entire system, he recommended that we bring an electrical engineer in to do the analysis of our system, what do we need, and then combine that in
Right.
with everything, so that
That
everything
makes sense.
fits each part.
You didn't wanna waste money if we're gonna replace them.
Yeah.
You know, replace them twice in 2 or 3 years.
And I believe
Yeah.
that money is supposed to come out of the reconstruction fund for the transformers.
Correct.
So that fund is, well, you guys can tell me when we're talking about it, what's there. Would this be in a CFA? Could we use the money from ARPA money, part of it from reconstruction fund? What goes where and what's appropriate? How, you'll have the full list to see what the priority is, right? So the next step would be, once we figure out the priorities, would be doing the engineering on them, right? All right. Assuming that from the tenor of what we're hearing, that this has gotta be in the top 3?
What's-
Hard to know without seeing the list.
What's 1 and 2?
I don't know.
For
I-
us here, I think it's number one.
Yeah.
For you, it's number one.
Critical infrastructure, so.
We
Sure.
can't run anything without electricity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see, so that's it for discussion. I don't believe we have any personnel issues this month. I think we should take a moment and we'll go into executive session. Before we do, you can at least, see the proposed next dates of the workshop and the next board meeting. That can be confirmed. So, do we have a motion to go in executive session?
Bill,
Yes.
Just, one new item, I would just like to, and Bill, kudos to the water and sewer road crew, the FOCC, and jumping in front of Bill probably wanted to do it. As you said earlier, I jinxed us, I jinxed those guys. I said we hadn't had a water main break yet this year. And,
Lo and behold.
we ended up having one on the worst day of the winter,
Yeah.
Friday during the snowstorm.
No.
Yeah.
Pretty bad one.
Sagamore
over on
Street.
Sagamore, the guys were there from 7 AM to 11 PM. They got it done, the neighbors were fantastic, they brought them in for some soup and hot chocolate and coffee and stuff
Bring
like
cookies
that.
out.
So it was,
That's
it
great.
was appreciated, but I think me and Bill need to give a kudos too, so.
No, absolutely, yeah, it was tough, and then, finally when we located the break, it's gotta be, we located, we said, we'll get it repaired, well, the break was right on top of a piece of ledge. They had to go get a jackhammer, they had to jackhammer out the ledge to get the clamp underneath. And I had some pictures I couldn't get, I wanted to bring those too, cause it was a really good repair, and, but those guys, bare hands down in the hole, 14-degree weather.
That's rough.
That was rough, and then finally, and probably because that pipe was sitting on the ledge and vibration over all the years, that's probably what created the crack in it.
And the frost is down, just for FYI, I think it's down, they said like 30 inches, maybe a little more.
Maybe a little more, yeah, it wasn't very deep.
Just kudos to the guys.
Absolutely. Well, and please add that to that list when you're talking to Larry. We want to take some photos and,
Boomer had
mention
to-
maybe
oh,
we
that was
can.
the other thing, we had three of the 7 off.
Yeah,
3 guys were on vacation that day, on
yeah, they all
sick,
were,
vacation and personal, so they're down to 4 guys.
yeah. We had some help from guys here, and then we had, an intern that worked really well.
Yeah, the intern did
He
fantastic.
did a great job for us, yeah.
So we want to tell those stories more and give recognition to those guys and, the neighborhoods, that is the Glens Falls difference. Having people invite you into their home, I think we want to talk more about that. We always hear the negative.
That neighbor
Right.
came in, she threatened us, she said, if you don't come in, I'm gonna come get you.
That's
She
great.
kept supposed to come out 3 or 4 different times.
We
You
really-
better come in, you better.
Oh, that's good.
Danger, I would say, we're coming, we're coming.
That's awesome.
That's great. That is. That's
All
great.
right. Thank you. So, motion to go into executive session.
So moved. Second?
Motion to come out?
Motion to come out of the executive.
Second?
Okay, in the executive session, we discussed ongoing, negotiations with the town of Monroe. No decisions were made.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you, sir. We still gotta get